Today's show is brought to you by LootCrate.com. Save 10% on any new subscription by going to trylootcrate.com/armchair. Enter promo code BRIDGE10 to save 10%. Again, that's trylootcrate.com/armchair. Enter promo code BRIDGE10. What is going on, guys? All right, welcome to GoingFor2.com's Armchair Fantasy Sports Show presented by Talk Loud Radio. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, and TuneIn Radio. Just search for Talk Loud Radio, all one word. You can also go to TalkLoudRadio.com, and we're streaming on the Going For 2 app. All right, guys. Sorry I didn't have a podcast last week for week one. I know it was a big week and everyone was looking for a podcast. Unfortunately, we had planned a vacation for my podcast or for week one, and I couldn't do a podcast from the beach. Just wasn't logistically going to happen, so I apologize. But we got week two, so we got some more information about week one. So now we have a little bit more information to give you some better plays. And to help with those plays, we brought Gerson on tonight. Gerson, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, and Jeff, I'm going to tell you right now, you didn't miss out too much on week one, but it just it was a very interesting week, that's for sure. For me, it was good. I profited. It was very good for me, but from the industry perspective, it was very rough for a lot of people because a lot of the sharks didn't hit, and well, Vegas was pretty bad and off, but I think this week should be a bounce back, a lot of good games and whatnot. But if you can do DFS podcast and all that on the beach, wow, that is going to be an epic story one day.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was a weird week. I mean, I cashed across the board, but not because of my skill players. I cashed because of my defense. I had Pittsburgh's defense, Jaguars defense, and Rams defense across my lineups. And I think in pretty much all of them, they were my highest scoring, quote unquote, player on my team. But it was enough to push me over the top, and I cashed pretty much all my contests. I didn't hit anything big, but I did come out profitable, so I'll take it. But yeah, definitely week two should hopefully be a better week for us. We got some more information. We got a little bit more insight into what teams are going to be doing, hopefully, and hopefully they bounce back for them awful offensive performances that we saw in week one. All right, man, let's go ahead and just jump right into the slate here. We'll start off at the quarterback position. Of course, the two games everyone's looking at, as far as, highest over-under and everything is going to be the Saints and Patriots game and also the Green Bay Atlanta game on Sunday night. So those four quarterbacks in those games are, four of the top five quarterbacks on the slate. Of those four quarterbacks in that high, those two high-scoring games, which one do you like the best, or is there someone else that you're looking at as far as a quarterback in the top tier here?
I think the number one quarterback I'm targeting, I love, let's just get it out of the way. Everybody wants Tom Brady, everybody wants Aaron Rodgers, everybody wants Matt Ryan, everybody wants Drew Brees. But out of those top four tier quarterbacks that I want is Matt Ryan the most. Matt Ryan is just, he wasn't an MVP last year because it was a fluke. He was a good quarterback. He averaged 21.75 fantasy points per game at home, and he's basically the best value per dollar on FanDuel at quarterback. I mean, people confused. I understand the industry says value per dollar. I really think it's kind of a leverage thing of how you want to do it. But I think Matt Ryan is in prime position for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, I just don't think Green Bay Packers are that great of a defense. They were ranked last year Let's see, DVOA versus quarterback. They were among the worst, basically 23rd overall. Just not a defense I believe in. And they struggle really bad. And I think them being at home, the new Falcon Stadium going to open up the roof. I mean, it's just like a Matt Ryan and Julio Jones show, you know? But
Definitely.
I like Matt Ryan the most out of those four quarterbacks, top price.
Definitely. I think, if you're looking at his price tag, I mean, he's $1,000 less than Tom Brady, and you can get, some better receivers / running backs if you go with Matt Ryan. I think all four quarterbacks have the potential to put up huge numbers because all four teams are high-scoring offenses. And the four defenses, are decent, not great. The Saints defense obviously is horrible. Green Bay, I think, last year was decent against the run, but they were horrible against the pass. Then you got Atlanta, who's a middle-of-the-pack defense. Maybe they're getting better. They're a faster defense. They actually gave, Tom Brady fits in that Super Bowl for half of a game before they blew a big lead. So they're not, it should be some decently, high-scoring games there in those four. And I think those four guys will be heavily owned. But I'm with you. I like Matt Ryan as well. I think most of my lineups, I think I did go with Drew Brees. Either Drew Brees or Matt Ryan. Drew Brees is 8,700 on FanDuel. He's going up against the Patriots. He's at home. He's a much better quarterback at home. I think his Week 1 performance will have people off of him a little bit because he didn't look so good in Week 1. But that Patriots defense couldn't slow down the Chiefs. One of the most conservative offenses over the past few years. You go to New Orleans now, you got Drew Brees throwing the ball. He's a lot better than, Alex Smith, and he got some better receivers. So I think Drew Brees can put up some big numbers as well. So those are my two. I like Matt Ryan and Drew Brees if I'm paying up for quarterback, that is. Let's move down into the mid-tier guys. Let's see some of these mid-tier guys that, you got like Marcus Mariota was a popular play last week. Jameis Winston, of course, didn't play last week. He's going up against Chicago, but it's his first game of the season, so who knows what we're going to get there. We got Kirk Cousins in this mid-tier who had a horrible Week 1. Probably have some low ownership because of that. Let's see who else is down here. Carson Wentz actually was really good at the quarterback position last week. He has Kansas City. Are any of these mid-tier guys, are you looking at any of them for this week?
Yeah. I have one guy I'm targeting pretty heavy. I got a question for you. Since you were big on Jameis Winston and Mike Evans, how was your Week 1 in fantasy football?
Well, surprisingly, I had some good and some bad. So my dynasty, I have Jameis Winston and Mike Evans, which obviously I couldn't play Week 1. I ended up winning that game, surprisingly. But the thing that really pisses me off the most is that I had drafted in my rookie draft this year in the last round. So the 5th round, I drafted Tarek Cohen, from the Chicago Bears. And, had him on my bench just sitting there. But when these two guys weren't going to play, I had to find a quarterback because I didn't have a backup. Actually, I had Bortles, but I didn't want to play Bortles, in that Week 1 matchup. So I was like, all right, I got to find a quarterback. So the only guy I could drop that made any sense was Tarek Cohen. So I dropped him, picked up Sam Bradford for 1 week, thinking that Cohen wouldn't do much and I can go and add him back after the weekend. Of course, he went off, and now, of course, I didn't have a high waiver priority, so I lost him for Sam Bradford. So I was glad that I won, but I was pissed that I lost Tarek Cohen probably forever. Now, I'm sure he won't be dropped anytime soon. So unless I trade for them, I definitely won't be getting him back. But, yeah, so overall, it was a good week because I did win, but I was pissed I lost Tarek Cohen.
So you weren't pissed that Mike Evans and Jameis Winston didn't play? I mean, we all know how much you love him, man. But no, so basically my mid-tier quarterback is going to be my value quarterback as well. He's the one that I feel the most comfortable with, the most, just per dollar value, and it just makes all the sense. His name is Phillip Rivers, 7,000 on FanDuel, 5,800 on DraftKings. Way cheap on DraftKings, way too cheap. And he's a quarterback 21 on FanDuel. It's just too cheap. And he's coming off a game where he threw 3 touchdowns on the road against the Broncos. And we all know about the no-fly zone Broncos defense. And he still threw 3 touchdowns. And the only thing that worries me on this game is that the Dolphins are a run-heavy offense, so it's going to limit the Chargers' offense to be out there on the field. But the thing is, they're at home. This is going to be what? They're really not at home, since San Diego fans think that, well, they're San Diego fans. They're like, oh, we're going to the Los Angeles Chargers, But it just makes sense. He's at home, high over and under, and I think Philip Rivers is a great play for his price.
I'm with you 100%. I think his price, especially on DraftKings, is ridiculously low. I mean, he's priced literally the same price as Jimmy Garoppolo, who's a backup quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, how is that even possible? It doesn't make any sense to me at all. Either Garoppolo's too high or Rivers is too low, and I think it's more Rivers is probably too low. I think Miami, I'm with you. I think, they are going to try to run the ball a little bit, but they do have Mr. Turnover Machine, Jay Cutler, throwing the football, so I think the Chargers could see some short fields. I think Rivers also wants to get Antonio Gates that touchdown record. So I think, trying to do it in their first game at home, get it out of the way. So I think if you're looking for a GPP stack, I think you can go with Rivers and Antonio Gates, going for that touchdown. I think that would be a good play. But, yeah, I'm with you on Rivers as well. I think that price is just too low. I mean, he's priced, he's cheaper than, he's priced the same as Joe Flacco, actually priced below Blake Bortles. Rivers is not getting any respect at all, but I will take that all day, every day. So, yeah, I'm with you on that play as well. Are there any other guys that are, sort of those like super cheap, like Jacoby Brissett? Any interest in him, or Jared Goff?
The NFL game is so. I mean, we hear stories about players coming in and they get like the size of a playbook that takes them to memorize forever. And I just can't see a quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, coming in and memorizing all the plays and, memorizing the whole playbook and building that chemistry with that team. I mean, we know how bad T.Y. Hilton struggles without Andrew Luck. What makes you think that another quarterback is just going to come in there that never had enough practice and chemistry with them and do great? Especially a backup quarterback from the New England Patriots. While we all say, oh, it's going to be great, he's a backup quarterback, learn from Tom Brady. Yeah, let me know how Matt Castle turns out. Exactly. But, there's one quarterback I do like, and people are probably going to hate on me for this, and I don't care because grain of salt, Jared Goff. He's 6,500 on FanDuel, 5,100 on DraftKings. He's favored at home, 24.5 over point total. And the Redskins defense, pass secondary, is not that great. They're ranked, I believe, 24th overall against quarterbacks in DVOA. And let's be honest here, it's a cheap stack if you want to do it with cut. Mm-hmm. And this week is the week where you're either going to pay up at quarterback or you're going to try to find a value quarterback.
Definitely. I think I'm with you as well. I actually love me some Jared Goff. I actually put him on my value plays that I tweeted out on Twitter. I think that matchup with Washington is a pretty good one. I think I also like the Jared Goff Cooper Kupp stack. Cooper Kupp will be playing in the slot. I think he was targeted the most last week. Sammy Watkins, I think, will have. I think he'll draw Norman, and so he'll be pretty much shut down. Not shut down, but he'll be in check for most of the game. I think Cooper Kupp will benefit from that. So a Jared Goff, Cooper Kupp could be definitely a good stack for GPPs.
People need to start believing in him too, because I understand he had a horrible rookie year, but Sean McVay is a genius offensive mind. I know people give what's his name, Kyle Shanahan, a lot of credit for being a great offensive mind, but Sean McVay is I think he probably could be, if we had a rookie head coach of the year, he's going to improve that Rams team. And we saw it last week. He got the tight ends involved. He got the running. Todd Gurley just freaking sucks, but he still got like 50 yards receiving, which we never see from Todd Gurley. So that shows you how open this offense is getting. The wide receivers, they drafted Kupp. They got what's his name, Sammy Watkins, and it just shows you that they know Jared Goff and they have confidence in him. Just because he was a horrible rookie, don't give up on him. I think with this value quarterback, it could open up your roster up, especially with games that we're going to target, and we're going to talk about it later on when we get to those positions.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to the running back position now. Of course, the top running back on here is David Johnson. Of course, he's not going to play, which may open up some value. You got Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, and then I would put LaShawn McCoy in that top tier. I think after that, we're probably getting in the mid-tier. Maybe Devontae Freeman kind of falls in that top tier as well. Are any of these guys worth paying up for on this slate?
Too soon, Jeff. Too soon. Why you got to hurt my feeling about David Johnson like that? Too soon. I'm
guessing you own him in a couple leagues.
Oh, yeah. David Johnson's like my little man crush. Well, actually, big man crush because he's bigger than me, obviously. But so a lot of people are going to go to Kareem Hunt. And I understand that, a lot of new players get into FanDuel. They see the advertisement. They see other people winning, and they're going to say, oh, well, Kareem Hunt had this much, last week. He had amazing game. He did have an amazing game. That is true. But I think my favorite running back play this week is going to be Melvin Gordon. I just think, like I said, at home, they're going to be up. And I think they're just going to – his usage is just incredible over the last 2 years. There's no one that's going to be he doesn't share the carries. We saw the Broncos game. He got a lot. And the best part about him right now is that he's getting better at catching the ball. I don't know if you saw that game, Jeff, but he caught that it's like a little up and under route.
Right.
And he caught it like backhanded and got in and like jumped over the guy and like got the touchdown. I was like, wow, that's impressive. And I think I said Phillip Rivers, and people are going to wonder, hey, can I stack Melvin Gordon with Phillip Rivers? I think you can. I think a running back quarterback correlation has been working a lot. I believe it's the third best correlation next to wide receiver, quarterback, and tight end and quarterback, and then it goes running back and quarterback. But I think it's a pretty good correlation. I like Melvin Gordon this week, and his price is really low.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I actually put in my article on Fantasy Pros that I'm fading Kareem Hunt. I think his ownership's going to be ridiculously high for one. And then the second thing that kind of scares me away from him is he only played 57% of the snaps last week, which if you compare that to some of the stud running backs, I think McCoy had 73%. I think Le'Veon Bell, DeMarco Murray, I think was in the 70%. Melvin Gordon, you just mentioned, was in the 70%. So he's not even in that top tier as far as snap count yet. Ty Montgomery, of course, he had like a 90%. He was like ridiculously high. But if I'm paying up for a running back, if I'm going $77,000, $78,000 and above on FanDuel, I want someone getting a ton of snaps, a ton of usage, being on the field constantly. And Kareem Hunt just didn't get that last week. Now, that may change. It may have been in the game plan because he was a rookie. They didn't want to overuse him in his first game. So that may change this week. But I think his ownership also is going to be ridiculously high. So even if you own him now, cash games, I would probably use him in a cash game just because his ownership will be high. And I think if he goes off, you're gonna be hurting if you don't have him in your lineup. But in GPP, I think I'm fading him, and I think I do like your call at Melvin Gordon. I think that's a good call. I think Miami, last year was, if they weren't the last, they were close to the last as far as rushing defense last year. So Melvin Gordon definitely should have a big game. I also like DeMarco Murray to have a bounce-back game as well. I think Jacksonville's a good defense, but Tennessee wants to run the ball, and I think that they're going to find a way to get him the ball this week and have a bounce-back game against Jacksonville this week.
I agree with you. And we're not telling you to fade Kareem Hunt. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, they don't like Kareem Hunt. I like Kareem Hunt, but I'm not going to go overexposed for him. I mean, there's another running back I'll mention in a few minutes, but Melvin Gordon's in a good spot, but just don't fade Kareem Hunt. He's going to be a good play, but you have to pick your exposure right. Don't go crazy on him.
Definitely. All right, let's move into the mid-tier here. We got Jordan Howard, who's questionable with the shoulder injury. I think he'll play. Marshawn Lynch is here. C.J. Anderson. Mr. Gillislee, who's basically taking over that position of let me fall down and get a touchdown with the New England Patriots that LeGarrette Blount had last year. You fall down 1 yard, you get a touchdown. You got Jacquizz Rodgers. It'll be his first game, filling in for Doug Martin. Christian McCaffrey, Ty Montgomery, any of these mid-tier guys that you're targeting?
I think my highest exposure running back I'm going to have this week for mid-tier and value, depends how you want to do it. I like mid-tier is going to be Ty Montgomery. 90% of the snap, on the field all the time. He can be a wide receiver, running back. He's just incredible. And 25.5 total points by Vegas. Atlanta is not great at defending the run. They're 30th overall, and they're not great at defending the pass running back either. Tariq Cohen and Jordan Howard combined over 160 all-purpose yards last week against them. So I like Ty Montgomery this week, and I expect him to be the chalk player of the slate because on 5,800 on DraftKings, if you don't have him locked in, I'm telling you right now, you don't like money. He better be locked in on DraftKings because that is too cheap for a running back that's getting 90% of the snaps. He's the highest usage, the highest snap total percentage on the last week's slate. And Ezekiel Elliott was number 2 at 81%. So it's not like he was so close. And that shows you a Green Bay game. Vegas has him higher over and under. Back and forth game, Ty Montgomery's going to be out there quite a bit.
I'm with you 100%. I think he is the chalk play on the slate. I've seen his name pretty much everywhere. I tweeted that same stat out earlier in the week that Ty Montgomery had 9% of the snaps, and like I said, DeMarco Murray had 70%. You mentioned Ezekiel Elliott had 81. I think even LaShawn McCoy, who's basically the Buffalo Bills, their whole team basically is LaShawn McCoy. I think he had 75% of the snaps. So that just goes to show how much the Packers have faith in him. Of course, he is also a good receiver because he was previously a wide receiver. So I think when you look at Tarek Cohen, what he did last week to Atlanta, I think that you can expect a similar sort of usage for him that they used with the Bears with Tarek Cohen. So yeah, I think I like Ty Montgomery as well. He'll be the chalk play of the week. Is there anybody else here that's sort of under the radar that you like?
Yeah, another running back that I like. Well, he's not under the radar, but a lot of people are just not going to remember him because last year he was basically a part-time running back, and then this year, he didn't play week 1. I like Jacquizz Rodgers. The guy is, he's just not sexy. If that's the word we can look for, let's be honest. Just look at his FanDuel picture, and you're like, oh, wow, okay. It can't be worse than Marshawn Lynch ESPN picture, but I don't know if you ever saw that, but it was pretty scary. But Jacquizz Rodgers, a home favorite against the Bears, had 17 touches five times last year, and the Bears' run defense, they're going to struggle. They just lost one of their best linebackers, I think Jarrell Freeman, played with a torn pectoral muscle on the first play, one of their best coverage linebacker and one of their best run linebacker. His price is too cheap. He's going to be another catch and GPP play for me on DraftKings and 6,600 on FanDuel. That saves me a lot of money and gives me a chance to pay up for those wide receivers.
Nice. I'm going to make sure that when I tweet out this podcast, I'm going to tag Jacquizz Rodgers and say not sexy in there and see if it can get and listen to our podcast.
I don't think he'll take it personal if it's a bunch of guys talking about fantasy football about him. But
I'm going to put Gerson does not think Jacquizz Rodgers is sexy. What do you think? And then I'm going to tag the podcast.
Do it, man. Do it.
All right, cool. All right, let's see. All right, let's move down into some of these lower tier guys. I've heard these names tossed out quite a bit with the injury to David Johnson. You got Kerwin Williams and Andre Ellington. Those guys are sort of those cheap guys. We got the aforementioned Tarek Cohen down here. We've got Chris Thompson. We've got Derrick Henry, Duke Johnson, Any of these lower tier guys that you're using down here for some salary relief?
I mean, I talked to you about him today, but it's not going to be any of those guys you talked about. Thomas Rawls is very GPP, low percentage. I mean, coming back from an injury against the 49ers, 28-point total. 49ers allowed a league high 24 rushing touchdown last year. I mean, I understand it's a running back by committee in Seattle, but if we remember correctly, Thomas Rawls, like the best time to target him last year is when he got that role where he was just going to start. And and I'm telling everybody right now, last week it was this. Kenny Galladay, he was announced that he was going to be active. He was announced that he was going to play. And look what he did. You have to be on Twitter before lineup lock. It's very critical. If you don't have a Twitter account, create it and add all DFS stuff. Add going for two because Jeff is always on the money. And you can add me at one fantasy G, and I try to tweet out stuff. And basically, if Thomas Rawls says they're going to start him, I'm going to play quite a bit of exposure to him because I think he'll be lowly owned, and the 49ers defense has not improved. And everybody's like, oh, well, they got Reuben Foster. Well, guess what? He's hurt already. And I'm sorry, Jeff. I know you're a 49er fan. I don't mean to bash on them, but this is DFS we're talking about. And, the first week, everybody's like, oh, let's see what the 49ers are about. And then as soon as the game finished, they're like, oh, it's going to be a long year.
Hey, I will actually disagree with you to a little bit of an extent. I think our defense has improved quite a bit. I think our offense was terrible last week. But if you look at the game last week, we held over the first 5 possessions that the Panthers had. They punted 3 times, threw an interception. The one score they had, the one touchdown they had was after a turnover where they had like a short field. So I think we were doing pretty good early in that game. I think they just got tired because the offense kept going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And then finally the Panthers just kind of got some points going. But if you watch that game, the Niners look a lot better than they did last year. Now, granted, I'm not saying they're going to be a good defense. Don't go and say that. But I think that they're going to be a little bit better than people think they're going to be. But at the same time, I think I do like your call of Thomas Rawls. I think he's still going to be a good play. Seattle wants to run the ball, especially with that terrible offensive line. They don't want to get Russell Wilson killed. So they will be running the ball quite a bit. They may throw some screenplays to him as well to try to slow down the pass rush. But yeah, I think Rawls is a good play. What's he like, 5,800 on DraftKings, I believe?
Yeah, he's hold on one second, I had it here. He's 5,800 on FanDuel, 4,600 on DraftKings. And like I said, this is a low GPP owned play, so don't go all crazy on him. But maybe you want to fit all those players that we're going to talk about at the wide receiver position. But I mean, this is a minus 13.5 favorite for Seattle, and they're at home. And we know the first game of the year at home, everybody gets crazy, and those Seattle Seahawks fans are even crazier than anybody. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's one more guy down here that I like as well that I want to call out. I think he's more of a GPP guy, but he's only 5,500. That's Chris Thompson from the Redskins. He actually played just about as many snaps as Rob Kelly. I think Rob Kelly had 33. Chris Thompson had 30. I think the Redskins do like Thompson. They've always kind of kept him involved. The problem with him has been injuries. He just can't stay on the field. But he looked good last week, put up 13.6 FanDuel points. He'll be involved in the passing game. I think Thompson will be a good contrarian play to the Tarek Cohens of the world, just because I think everyone's going to be on Tarek Cohen. They're basically the same price. Cohen's actually $100 cheaper than Chris Thompson, but I like him as a contrarian play as well.
I agree with you. I didn't like early on, like we were talking about this, and I think I overlooked that. And Chris Thompson, a lot of people say, "Oh well, Rob Kelly's the running back, and then Chris Thompson's the third down running back that comes in and catches balls." But he had 48% of the snaps and averaged 0.52 points per snap. I mean, he is how much, Jeff?
He's 5,500 on FanDuel. On FanDuel, he's 55. On DraftKings, I think he's 41. He may even be 38 actually on DraftKings. Let me see. Hold on. Yeah, he's 3,800 on DraftKings.
I mean, Kirk Cousins is a smart quarterback, and I know the Rams are actually they're not a horrible defense, and I know they're on the road, but let's say the Rams magically pull ahead, the Washington Redskins are not gonna keep Rob Kelly in. I think Rob Kelly is one of the worst running backs in the NFL. I don't like him. And I don't even know why I even had like 1% exposure to him last week. Maybe because he was cheap, and I was like, all right, maybe I'll play him. But it's just, I think Chris Thompson is he's pretty good at catching the football. And not only that, he runs all those smart routes, like the hot routes for Kirk Cousins. And Aaron Donald's going to play in this game. I think they can get a pass rush showing, and they're at the Rams in LA. I mean, I like that call because they're going to have to be throwing the ball to Chris Thompson if they have to catch up.
Exactly. All right. Is anybody else on here you want to talk about before we move on to wide receiver?
No, I'm okay.
All right. Actually, before we get to receiver, I'm going to take a quick commercial break. Then we come back, we'll talk receiver, we'll talk tight end, and we'll do a little bit of defense because we don't do kickers that go in for 2. So let's go ahead and do that commercial break real quick, and when we come back, we'll do receiver.
Do you need advice for your fantasy football team? How about your DraftKings or FanDuel lineup? Going42.com has you covered. Going42.com has exclusive content from some of the best fantasy writers in the industry, whose credentials include Bleacher Report, Fantasy Pros, and Fantasy Life. From advice columns to player ranks, Going42.com has it all. Sign up for our newsletter to have all of our content sent to your inbox. Start winning today. Visit Going42.com because no one remembers the extra point.
The echo chamber enhanced the flow at the block party, keeping MC head spinning like Dark Bacardi. This BAC is 2.3. Now the live is dead.
All right, guys, welcome back. We just went through quarterback and running back. Now we're going to tackle the receivers and the tight ends. We're here with Gerson. Gerson, give me your Twitter handle again.
@1FantasyG.
@1FantasyG. Is it one? Is it one spelled out?
Yeah, no, just the number 1.
The number 1.
@1, the number 1, FantasyG.
All right, cool. So definitely give him a follow on Twitter. He's a great DFS player, guys. He's a GPP guy. He'll max out those tournaments, and he's got some good strategies. So definitely give him a follow on Twitter. All right, wide receiver. This is the money position right here. This is we get 3 positions on FanDuel. You can get 3 on DraftKings as well if you put 1 in the flex. Let's go with the top guys here. Of course, Antonio Brown is the top one, 9,400 on FanDuel. Julio Jones, Mike Evans, Jordy Nelson, Michael Thomas maybe sneaks into that top tier just because of who he plays with. Any of these top guys worth paying up for?
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm going to tell everybody right now, wide receiver is going to be the heaviest, most highly priced position you're going to be paying for this week. Last week was kind of like a running back, but this week it's more wide receiver because, let's not lie, this is going to be Vegas' biggest projected game. Number 1 is going to be, hold on, I just want to make sure I'm 100% accurate on this. The highest total is 53.5. Atlanta versus Green Bay is number 2. New England is number 1 at 54.5. Those 2 games are going to be heavily targeted. The other game that I think people are going to have exposure to is just going to be like one-sided, the Oakland Raiders, and then just those 2 games, Green Bay, Atlanta, Patriots, New Orleans, it's going to be highly owned because of the wide receivers. And let's not lie, there's a lot of good wide receivers and tight end if we include Gronk. But people are going to play Julio Jones. It's not a mystery. Julio Jones is a top overall play. He has the best ceiling, and the Packers defense ranked 29th overall versus wide receivers. All 3 cornerbacks for the Green Bay Packers are ranked among the 11th worst. And, well, I just don't believe Packers defense at Atlanta is going to be good. I've already said it once, and Julio's going to be a locked in. I know he's pricey, but just I wouldn't say lock him in, but play him because he's going to be very highly owned. I'm very cautious about Jordy Nelson, though, because Jordy Nelson is going to be facing Desmond Trufant. He's going to be on him.
Yep.
And the only reason why I'm going to name these two players because people are going to be target them because of that high over-under. And I know I'm only supposed to name one player, Jeff, but I'm just saying this right now because I think these two players is very interesting. Because people are going to be like, oh, well, it's Julio Jones. And then maybe I come back with Jordy Nelson. Desmond Trufant, is a great cornerback. He was a top 10 cornerback when he was healthy. And when he went down, we saw what Atlanta's defense, pass defense, is just not that great. And I think Desmond Trufant will be on Jordy Nelson. It could hurt him. I'm not saying that he's going to shut him down, but I am saying that you have to be cautious. I mean, Desmond Trufant typically plays opposing wide receivers 1, and Jordy averaged 5 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown when in the 2 games last year. And everybody's going to see that, and they're going to be like, oh, I love Jordy Nelson. But just remember, Desmond Trufant, season-ending injury at the beginning of the season.
Yep, that's true. That's a good point because, he is definitely a shutdown corner. Has been, for a couple years now. He's definitely a good cornerback to avoid. So if you're going to pivot off Jordy Nelson, are you going with Devontae Adams or are you going with Randall Cobb?
I like Randall Cobb because he's cheap and
agreed.
He's healthy. Last year he wasn't that healthy. A lot of people forget that. I mean, yes, he did play, but he was always playing with nagging injuries. And everybody loved Devontae Adams because of all those touchdowns and all those points he got when he was cheap. But I like Randall Cobb's matchup better. Like I said, Desmond Trufant is the only cornerback I'm scared of on the, what's their name?
Atlanta Falcons.
Atlanta Falcon. I mean, I'm not worried. I don't think Devontae Adams is a bad play, but his price is a little more expensive than
Agreed.
Cobb. But it's just that's how I feel about it. I mean, this game, you have to pick certain plays. I mean, we could have talked about Devontae Freeman, but I'm not targeting him either. I mean, I'll have low ownership to him, but you have to pick your spots in this game.
Definitely. All right, let's move into this second tier here. Of course, you mentioned the Oakland Raiders game, so you got Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree both fall in that sort of mid-tier. You got Brandon Cooks going back to New Orleans in the revenge game scenario. You got Dez Bryant. Of course, Tyreek Hill had a big game last week. T.Y. Hilton, we mentioned earlier, without Andrew Luck, is not T.Y. Hilton. Keenan Allen, coming off that injury, had a pretty decent week 1. He was targeted a ton, but against that Denver defense, they couldn't do much. Of these mid-tier guys, who's your favorite?
I have a question for you, Jeff, because we're DFS degenerate. Do you believe in the whole revenge game thing? Because I know in basketball, NBA, that is huge, and it's actually real.
I think in the NBA,
NFL,
NBA definitely is. There's the revenge narrative, and it typically, does play a part. I think the revenge narrative may only come into play if you are a quarterback, maybe, only because you sort of have more control over what's going on in the game. As the receiver, unless they go into the game thinking, okay, Tom Brady, I want you to throw the ball to Brandon Cooks, so we want to stick it to the Saints. I just don't see that happening. If it's not part of the game plan, it's not going to happen. So I don't really buy that too much. I do think that Brandon Cooks, in his head, I think he wants to go out there and show them that, what he's got. But I don't believe that they have any control over it, really.
I mean, mid-tier, the people are very different. To me, mid-tier is from 7,900 and below, but I mean, it just depends how you take the salary. But I do like Brandon Cook in the revenge game. It's not because it's a revenge game. I don't believe in revenge game in the NFL because the way I put it is this: if a quarterback doesn't want to throw you the ball, they're not going to throw you the ball. If you're not open, they're not going to throw you the ball. It's not like basketball. Hey, Kobe Bryant last game. Come on, I'm dropping 81.
Exactly.
It's not like that. The reason why I like Brandon Cook. He averaged 18.2 PPR home points per game at home. and compared to 13.1 on the road. He's returning back to the Superdome, and, that's his home game, basically, in New Orleans. So he's going back to basically where he's been playing. And, I mean, I don't know if you know this, and just telling everybody, but Sam Bradford lit them up for 326 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he's no Drew Brees,
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, I like Brandon Cook. So, Patriot, Tom Brady, Brandon Cook, Amendola. The Amendola that got hurt.
He's out. Yeah, he's definitely right? he's been ruled out.
I mean, let's be honest here. Amendola is like the Kenny of South Park for the NFL. Oh, look, Amendola, and then he dies. Like in every episode. Sorry, Amendola. Don't get mad at me. Don't tweet that out, Jeff.
They killed Amendola.
But I like. It's just a good correlation. And if you're going to play Brandon Cook, it would be smart to do wide receiver stacked back to the other team. So keep that in mind if you want to do that.
Definitely. All right. Let's see. Keenan Allen. You like Keenan Allen at all? Yeah. After his week 1, I think he had 10 targets. He had 5 catches, had a touchdown. Go up against Miami. Any interest in Keenan Allen at all with that Philip Rivers call you had earlier?
Yeah, I like Keenan Allen this year. When I say this year, it's until he gets hurt, I guess, I mean, that guy gets hurt. He has some fluky injury, but they're ranked 22nd overall against the pass. Miami is not that great. They don't have any cornerbacks that are great at that. They're more of a run-stopper team. And Adam Gase will try to slow down the pace. But for me, I think Keenan Allen is a great player. He got targeted quite a bit. Let me see. I have his targets right here. He got targeted 10 times. I mean, that's pretty good targets compared to playing someone like the Denver Broncos,
Right.
And if you guys remember, this guy was a target monster when he was healthy. And Philip Rivers, he loved throwing that ball to him. So I think I'm on Keenan Allen, not only because of all of that, but his price is ridiculously awesome. I don't know how to put those two words together, but it's just awesome. I mean, it's just so cheap on FanDuel and DraftKings. I believe on DraftKings, I don't know the exact price because I'm more of a FanDuel player, but I think he's at $5,600, if I'm correct.
Let's see. Keenan Allen is $5,800 on DraftKings.
Oh, so yeah. And on FanDuel, he's $7,100. I mean, if he gets a touchdown and 100 yards, that's meeting value for GPP almost.
Yep.
So, I mean, and he's going to catch 6 balls to get that. So on DraftKings, that's shattering value, I mean, like I'm telling you right now, DraftKings players, there's a lot of value at wide receiver and kind of tricky for DraftKings because there's Keenan Allen, there's Tyreek Hill, there's Stephon Diggs, all these players, but it's just you have to pick your spot for wide receiver this week. And I honestly think wide receiver will, because if those shock players at wide receiver fail, that ownership of everybody that's playing them is going to go down, and all those, like a Tyreek Hill, a Keenan Allen, a Michael Bryant. I meant Martavis Bryant,
Yep, definitely. That's kind of what we saw last week. I think in cash games, I saw a lot of David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, and both of them had subpar games. So my pretty crappy lineup that just had a really good defense ended up cashing in all my cash games because their ownership was so high. So I think same thing. I think these chalk receivers, if they don't have good games, that's going to bring down the overall scores of all the games. But moving down into these lower tiers here, we still got some good guys on this. We got Kelvin Benjamin, had an awful game 1. He only had 1 catch, I believe. We had Stephon Diggs, who had a huge coming out party there. Had a huge game, but he's going up against a better defense this week. And Sam Bradford now has an injury to his knee, so keep an eye on that if he's affected by that at all. We got Larry Fitzgerald, Pierre Garçon, and then we get down into the Emmanuel Sanders, Jordan Matthews, Devontae Parker. Any of these guys down here you like?
Amari Cooper. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. I just had to get out of it. Amari Cooper is probably one of my favorite mid-tier plays. I know he's 7,900 on DraftKings. 8,100 on FanDuel, sorry. Not 7,900.
He's 79 on FanDuel.
Yeah, he's 7,900 on FanDuel, 8,100 on DraftKings. And he got targeted 3 times in the red zone. It just hurt me so much because I'm watching the Raiders game and this guy can't catch a touchdown. And if you guys don't know this, I'm a big Raiders fan. And I'm like, catch the freaking ball. But, of course, I have a heavy ownership on him on week 1, which a lot of people did, not just me. But, it's awesome that he's getting targeted in the red zone. And he's playing the New York Jets, which are among the worst. I think they were 3rd worst last year, if I'm correct. Yeah. And this game had a high total over-under for the Oakland Raiders, not for the New York Jets. And it's just, if you're getting targeted, he got targeted 13 times. That's 20% of the team target, I think they're going to throw the ball. And once they throw the ball, they're going to run the ball.
Yep.
So obviously that's kind of let's see, So, and that price is pretty cheap. For what he can get in the usage, I like him.
Good deal. I think one of the guys I want to call out down here sort of under the $6,500 range is Devontae Parker. I know that the Chargers have a pretty good secondary. And, Devontae Parker is sort of a one-trick pony right now where he just runs deep and just tries to, out-jump everybody. But Jay Cutler has shown over the years that he's not afraid to throw it to his guy, even if his guy is covered. And Parker needs to catch just 1 or 2 of those deep balls, and he can hit value. So I think Parker, especially with the Landry injury, I think he's questionable now with the knee injury. So if he's limited at all, I think he'll play. But if he's limited at all, I think Parker becomes the go-to guy, which we saw in preseason. Parker was the go-to guy already with Jay Cutler. And, interceptions don't really hurt Devontae Parker the way they hurt Jay Cutler. So if he throws, 6 balls to Devontae Parker and 2 of them are picked off, but Parker catches the other 4, I think you're good to go. So, yeah, I like Parker in the matchup there with the Chargers.
I like that call because they're obviously going to have to throw the ball if they're down. And I think Devontae Parker is a great athletic specimen. He's just a great wide receiver. He just hasn't. Actually, let me rephrase that. He has the ability, he has the potential to be a great wide receiver. The only thing is he's never had a real quarterback to throw him the ball.
And he can't stay healthy either. That's another problem.
Yeah. And Tannehill is a horrible downfield quarterback thrower. And Jay Cutler, he has an arm. As much as people hate Jay Cutler, he can throw a football pretty far. Maybe not accurate on short routes because he obviously throws it to the opposite jersey. There was I love smoking Jay Cutler. Like the meme about smoking Jay Cutler, it's the most funniest thing. This guy shows up to a press conference and they ask him how in shape is he. He says, I don't need to be in shape. I'm a quarterback. Who says that? To be honest, that's like saying, what kind of skills do you have for this job qualification? I don't need it. I'm just looking for a job.
Yeah, exactly.
But I like that call, Jeff. I wasn't even on it, but I'm actually going to look into it, and I do like that call because they're going to be throwing the ball, so they have to catch. And if Landry's hurt, the usage is going to go straight to Devontae Parker.
Yep, agreed. Like I said, I think in the preseason we saw it. Jay Cutler's just going to throw it to Parker no matter what. So I think he can be a good play. There's another guy down here that I like too that's pretty cheap, and people will be off him because of his Week 1 performance. That's Martavis Bryant. Bryant, obviously from last year, didn't play at all. Suspended. Had a bad Week 1. Was barely even targeted at all. But at home, Martavis Bryant is a different player entirely. I don't have the numbers here in front of me, but I know at home he's his home away splits are very similar to what Big Ben's are. He's a different player at home. They're playing at home against Minnesota. I think Antonio Brown will draw the coverage of their top cornerback, and I think Bryant has a good game here at 6,200 on FanDuel. You can't beat that.
Oh, yeah, I like that call. Another GPP low contrarian play. I don't think nobody will be on him because of that same reason. Week 1 is Terrell Pryor. And Terrell Pryor, I believe he got targeted 13 times, if I'm correct.
Yep.
13 times. I mean, they are on the road, but I still think a wide receiver like him and the Redskins do throw in the red zone a lot. He could have that high ceiling and can break out. And he can be that GPP leverage that can move you up on a roster. I mean, he played 84% of the snap. So, I mean,
definitely.
If he gets a touchdown, 100 yards at, I believe he's 6,400 on FanDuel.
68 on FanDuel.
68 on FanDuel, and on DraftKings he is 6,000.
Wow,
I mean,
that's cheap.
That's Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins already played, but that's kind of the mid range, you know.
Definitely. I like that call as well. All right, let's move over. I think we touched enough of wide receivers. Let's go over to tight end now. Of course, we mentioned earlier Gronk. You know, he might be a top play there playing against New Orleans. Had a bad week one. Then, of course, you drop off a cliff after Gronk. You got 8,100 for Gronk on FanDuel. And then you go Travis Kelce, Greg Olsen, Jordan Reed, Jimmy Graham. Delaney Walker's at 6,200 on FanDuel. Other than Gronk, is there anybody worth paying up for at tight end? I know you're not a big pay up at tight end kind of person, but if you were paying up at tight end, which one of these guys would you like?
I'm just not big at paying for tight end. Last week I had pretty good exposure to Austin Hooper, but I'm gonna let you take this one because I'm really, I'm just not that big at paying up for tight end. And I know you're pretty good at picking tight end.
Yeah, that's a loaded statement right there. I'm pretty good at picking tight ends, huh? All right, let me see. Usually when I pick tight ends, I'm looking for volume, not really the upside of the touchdown because it's so fluky with the touchdown, especially with tight ends. But I'm looking for volume, looking for guys to get tons of targets. And I think the two guys that I like that get tons of targets is Delaney Walker and Zach Ertz. Those are two guys that maybe not in the top tier. I'm like you. I don't pay up at tight end usually. So I'm going to avoid. I won't even have Gronk on my team. I think it's just too expensive. I mean, he's basically priced like some of the top tier wide receivers. So no thank you on that. I'm going to go with Delaney Walker or Zach Ertz. I think we lost Gerson here. Let's see if I can get him back real quick. He must have got disconnected. So in the meantime, I'll just keep talking while I get a hold of him. But yeah, definitely not paying up for Travis Kelce. Gerson, you there? Sorry, man. I don't know how we got disconnected, but got you back on the phone. I don't know how much you heard of me, but I went with Delaney Walker or Zach Ertz just because of the volume of targets they get.
That's where it cut off for me. You said Zach Ertz and it cut off for me, but okay, cool.
All right, so let's go ahead and move down into this lower tier here. You mentioned Austin Hooper, who had a pretty good game. I actually had him on my value plays as well. Didn't have enough exposure to him because I didn't think he'd have a huge game like he did. Then Jesse James is another one that had a big game that no one expected to have a big game. Are you paying for these guys this week? Their price came up kind of high, at least on FanDuel it did. They're $5,500 and $5,400 respectively. Either of these guys you paying for, or are you looking somewhere else for these mid-tier guys?
I'll be honest right now. I mean, I want to kick myself in the ass because I told myself, all right, let's see who's the worst first tight end week one. Oh, what do you know? Or the Cleveland Browns. And what do you know? Freaking Jesse James had a great game for him. And I was like, oh, he's so cheap too. And I don't ignore stuff like that. If there's horrible, one position that I know, if they're horrible against covering someone, tight end is among like the most shockers defense first position you can target. And I like the Zach Ertz call. Eric Perry's out for the year. One of the best, if not the best, safety covering the tight end. And with that, I believe the next graded player for their safety position, it was graded on Pro Football Focus. They were graded 49%. That's pretty horrible. I mean, that's not a great grade you can get for a safety. So I like the Zach Ertz call. I think this week, if people want to pay up for Gronk, you better find value. I'm not going to pay up for Gronk too much. I mean, if I do, I'm going to have like probably 5% ownership to him. not too heavy because, like I said, this week is very hard to pay up for. Gronk is just as expensive as not Julio Jones, Brandon Cooks, Michael Thomas. He's 8,100 on FanDuel. I believe on DraftKings he is a little bit more. Let's see. I'm more of a FanDuel player, but for DraftKings, he is 6,900. That's very expensive. I'm not paying up for that much on DraftKings. That's just too expensive for a tight end. He is the highest projected tight end. Let's not go there. But if I'm targeting one tight end, it's Kobe Fleener. I like Kobe Fleener. There's New England, high over-under game, and it finally looks like he's kind of getting a report, like chemistry with Drew Brees, and it's just people. He's cheap. He's 3,100 on DraftKings, and he's like 5,400 on FanDuel, I believe, if I'm correct. Yeah.
Yep, 5,300 actually on FanDuel.
5,300. That's even better, you know. So you have to be. I like the Zach Ertz call, but I think I'm going to have a lot. My highest exposure to tight end probably going to be like last week. What I did, I went cheap on tight end. I went Jason Witten. I went what's his name? Austin Hooper. I went with a cheaper tier. I always try to target my tight end for horrible defense because it worked very well, and it has worked for me in the past. And typically, tight end, it's just kind of like a volatile position. You can either do good or bad.
Yep.
So either a Gronk week or not a Gronk week, you know?
Exactly. There's two more guys I wanted to call out down here at the sort of mid. Actually, when you get to tight end, we're probably in the bottom tier right now because tight ends drop off pretty quickly. But a guy that I like is Charles Clay. He was removed from the injury report from earlier. I think he had a shoulder injury, but he got taken off the injury report, so he's good to go for this week. He had 9 targets last week. That's like receiver type numbers. He had 4 receptions, also had a receiving touchdown. With that Buffalo offense, they don't have much, as far as offensive skill positions. Charles Clay should be targeted pretty heavily at 5,200. Going up against Carolina, he should have a pretty decent day. And then one guy that people are kind of ignoring that I don't think you should ignore just yet, and that's Cameron Brate for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Everyone's just assuming that O.J. Howard's going to come in and be like a top-tier tight end or take over Brate's position immediately. Tight end, though, is the hardest position to transfer from college to the NFL for any position, basically. If you look at some of the past tight ends that have, that are top tight ends now, their first year, like Travis Kelce, Jordan Reed, Jimmy Graham, all these guys had bad first years. They weren't very impactful. So I think the O.J. Howard conversation is probably for next year. I think Cameron Brate, Winston loves to target him in the red zone. I think he's more of a boomer bust. He'll probably get like 3 or 4 targets, but he may get a touchdown. I think he had 8 touchdowns last year, which I think tied for the league lead. So Cameron Brate is a sneaky sort of GPP play. He can be a high upside guy if he can get those touchdowns in this game.
I love that call. Honestly, I think people won't be on him because, he's Cameron Brate. Let's be honest, he's not a sexy fit. And people... It's true what you say. Oh, the rookie phenom, athletic O.J. Howard. He's great. Don't get me wrong. If you drafted him in Dynasty League, congratulations. You got the future tight end.
Thank you.
But Jameis
I drafted him. Thank you.
Jameis. He also drafted Mike Evans, Jameis Winston, Jaquez Rogers, and then he also drafted Doug Martin, even though I'm kidding. I don't know why.
I am not a Bucs fan, but I own a lot of Bucs on my team. I am not a Bucs fan, but for some reason, I just like them this year.
Everybody knows as soon as the Hard Knocks for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers came out, Jeff put that on TiVo and told his wife, you know what, we're watching this every Tuesday night. I don't know what night it came out, but that night. But I like that call. I think another call I want to mention, it's just I like Charles Clay too, because let's be honest here, the Buffalo Bills don't have a wide receiver. Yeah. But another call is Austin Hooper. He's still I understand people are like, oh well, he had a good game week 1. and he might be a little bit higher owned, but Falcons are expected to put up 28 points. And the Packers defense, they're not that great. And if they're going to get into the red zone, they'll target Hooper. Hooper is a good tight end. He's kind of like he was a rookie tight end last year, just like the same situation O.J. Howard. He had not build chemistry, more like, break into the offense. And I think Austin Hooper can probably be under-owned because of how expensive everybody is going to be paying for wide receivers and whatnot. So I like Austin Hooper, too, versus Green Bay, high over-under. And, yes, he did get lucky. He had that 80-yard touchdown, whatever. He only caught 2 passes, but I expect him to get more catches in this game because of the high over-under. It's going to be a back-and-forth battle.
See, I think I'm going to disagree with you on there. I think I'm not on Austin. I was on him last week, but this week I'm actually off him. I think he did only have 2 targets. Both those targets came in the fourth quarter. When he had that 88-yard touchdown, at that point in the game, he hadn't been targeted a single time. I think he will get a few more targets, but I have a hard time putting it. I mean, he may have another big game. You could be right. I said, when I pick tight end, I want volume. I want a guy who's getting 10, 11 targets, being targeted in the red zone. And I don't see Hooper being that guy just yet. He might become that guy as the season progresses, but I think in week 2, I'm going to be avoiding Hooper.
I don't disagree with you, Jeff. Like I said, this guy is probably just one tight end. He's like that one tight end. I'm like, I have to have exposure to him, or else I'm going to regret it if he does go off, But
Exactly.
Like we said, tight end is the most volatile position in the whole FanDuel, DraftKings. I mean, on DraftKings, it's a little bit easier because there's a flex position, and usually on DraftKings, they're usually the salary savers. But on FanDuel, yes, they can be a salary saver, but they can also be like, it's not PPR, it's like 0.5. So if they get 7 catches and 80 yards, that's only realistically only like 6.8 points,
Yep, exactly.
So actually, my math might be off on that, but on DraftKings, that per point per dollar on DraftKings goes higher for tight end because it's a PPR.
Exactly. All right. I think we covered tight end pretty much. As I mentioned before, we don't do kickers here at Going for Two, so we're going to skip kicker. I will say on kicker, you want to check a couple boxes. Make sure it's not bad weather. You want to make sure that if you can get it in a dome, get it in a dome. Get a decent offense if you can get a decent offense for your kicker. But I'm not going to get too much into kicker. Anything that you look for in a kicker, Gerson, when you pick your kicker?
If you play in the higher tier tournaments like the Monster, the Bomb, just $33, $150, $333, $555, a lot of sharks and a lot of pro players tend to stack their kickers with their defense. So if you do that, obviously it's going to be only on FanDuel because that's the only place that has kicker. I mean, I think Yahoo and all those other sites have it, but yeah, I don't play Yahoo. But you want to stack that, but like what Jeff said, you want it an indoor, you want a high over and under. I usually try to target 24 points or more. And if you want to go, if you're in a GPP, you want to go contrarian. Last week with Greg Zuerlein, and that guy got like 30,000 points or something like that. And if you had the Rams defense and you had the kicker, you basically could have cashed just with those 2 alone.
Yes, you can, because I did.
Oh, you had Greg Zuerlein?
Yep, I had him stacked with the Rams defense in my cash lineup, so it definitely worked out for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's my only advice I would do. Indoor, like you said, 24 point over and under, and just you want opportunity. You want red zone opportunity because we know Matt Bryant, we know Gurkowski, we know all those top kickers, but we don't care about kickers very much here at Going for Two. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we go for 2, we don't kick it. So we always go for 2 here. So.
we're the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to go for 2.
Exactly. All right, let's look at defense just really quickly here before we wrap up the podcast. I'm just going to, there's not really like a top tier, bottom tier. I mean, there is, but the prices aren't that drastic. Which of the 2 or 3 defenses are you looking at for this week?
You said it exactly like how it is. Obviously, FanDuel always likes to overprice the defense. They do this every week. Oh, well, the Raiders are playing the Jets. We're going to price them the highest, It's just, they're smart about it. But I believe on DraftKings, I don't believe there's a reason to pay for defense because for some reason, DraftKings, last year in the Millionaire, only one time did a defense get more than 10 points and won the Millionaire. I think if you save a lot of money on defense, you can take down a lot of tournaments. And I'm one of those players that I like to target value defense. And my favorite defense this week is the San Diego Chargers.
Amen.
And they're 4,300 on FanDuel, and on DraftKings they are pretty cheap too, I believe. We'll double check that because
I think they are because I got them
2,800.
Yep.
2,800, and they're at home. They're playing Miami. They're playing Jay Cutler. Actually, let me repeat that. They're playing Jay Cutler, smoking Jay. I mean, throw the interception, and this is Jay Cutler that just barely came out. I mean, the guy had a press conference, like I said, and said, I don't need to be in shape. I mean, you need to be in shape in the NFL. I don't care who you say or who you are. I mean, unless, I don't know, whatever, you're the strongest man in the world. But Jay Cutler's nothing close to that. I mean, we saw that bum picture that he had on, on the beach with his wife that took of him. But, yeah, he's fat. But I just think the Chargers at home, it's the first game away from their San Diego. They're going to want to show up. And Jason Verrett and Casey Hayward, they're good cornerback. And that Joey Bosa guy, yeah, he's not too shabby. Neither is that Mark Ingram guy. And what are they going to do? Get pressure on him. And once they get pressure on him, they're basically going to intercept Jay Cutler because we all know what Jay Cutler does. He loves throwing to the opposite team. I don't know if the guy's colorblind or what, but he just loves throwing them. And at that price, I'm going to target the Chargers quite a bit.
I'm with you on that Chargers call as well. I think they're in pretty much most of my lineups. There are two more defenses that I've got. They're a little bit higher priced. That's the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Cleveland Browns. Of course, they got a rookie quarterback. Baltimore looked pretty good last week, so I think I got the Ravens in a few lineups. And then the highest defense I got that I'm picking this week is the Arizona Cardinals. They'll match up against the Colts, obviously with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. He's a brand new quarterback. It'll probably be a very vanilla offense. I think the Cardinals can do some good things there, but I think the Chargers is probably the way that I'm going in most of my lineups, and I'm sure everybody else is probably going that same route, but agreed on all points there. All right.
I have.
Go ahead. What are you going to say?
One more defense I want to mention. A lot of people are not going to be on them because of last week, but the Arizona Cardinals for Indiana is pretty interesting. They're 4,100 on DraftKings, pretty expensive, and 5,000 on FanDuel. But I'm just not a believer in a quarterback coming in, Jacoby Brissett, and doing great with a brand new offense. Even when I don't even think, even with Andrew Luck, I don't know why. I don't think they're that impressive in offense. I mean, they got Frank Gore, they got T.Y. Hilton, but you take out a quarterback that can't throw down the field. I mean, Brissett did good in the preseason. He did awesome. I mean, he got me 37 points on FanDuel or something like that. But this is the regular season. This is the quarterback that's coming in to play a new playbook. I think the Arizona Cardinals can go on their own. They might be a little bit more expensive, but maybe they can get an interception. They got Tyrann Mathieu. They got Patrick Peterson. They can get a couple pick six. That defense can hit value. Agreed.
100% agreed. And they'll be contrarian too. I think everyone will be on the Chargers, so I think Cardinals, because they are more expensive, may not be quite as highly owned, but definitely the Cardinals are definitely a good defense to play. All right, Gerson, that wraps up the slate for tonight. I want to wish you good luck for this weekend. Hopefully you have a good weekend in DFS like you did last weekend. Give my listeners your Twitter handle one more time.
It's the number one, Fantasy G. That's a capital FANTASY, and then a capital G.
All right, good deal, man. Like I said, once again, thanks for coming on, and good luck this weekend, and we'll be talking to you sometime next week.